Actually, what we were looking at follows on really, really nicely from what you've just been discussing. I'm representing Red Group, and the same as my colleagues, I hope what I'm going to say is actually representative of what we've spent the day discussing. The two sort of issues that we looked at were the differences within the generations, and also work and how that's likely to look in the future. So I'd like to start with the differences in the generations, sort of connecting into what Paul was talking about. We started looking at adapting the culture. How would that happen? What would that look like in the workplace? And we sort of felt that we'd be looking at possibly new managerial skills, new leadership skills that would be required from the sort of standard ones that we look for to this sort of at the moment. And that is likely to also look at how we recruit in terms of identifying skill sets, particularly the information, looking at, you know, as Paul was talking about, the way that a 9-year-old brings information in and what they do with that information. So that in itself will impact in the work in terms of the skill set and the competencies that we're starting to look for in the way that we create jobs. And how can this be used in the workplace? And then over time, what would a new generation career look like? So there's lots of questions more than answers that we had from that, but I find that quite interesting as maybe slightly taking it in more detail. In terms of work and the way that work is likely to evolve, we're looking possibly at alternative and parallel forms of negotiations taking place, almost on a micro level, particularly when we're sharing information in these social media settings, which go beyond the formal fora that exist in terms of negotiating interdepartmentally, sort of from business to business. So there may be those issues as well. Looking at different models of careers, you know, the flexibility, the adaptability. Are people going to be looking more at the top because of the motivation thing? You know, will my career consist of areas that I want to work in because I'm interested in them rather than a formal job? Work is likely to become more consensus driven, and that in itself brings its own issues in terms of authority, accountability and responsibility. The social impact as well. We looked at the social impact. If you're looking at driving a business from cost and profitability to the extent where people are working almost in isolation, there's also a requirement as human beings for a social interaction, hence the social media. And we felt that there initially, certainly if you're working in remote teams that are spread across the globe, there is a need for a face-to-face meeting. You need to see the person's whites of their eyes, whether that be sort of through a webcam or for whatever reason, but it's very difficult to interact with someone who you've never seen. We were looking at definitions as well, you know, the idea about defining what is it an organisation actually wants to achieve with social media. It's all very well having it, but what do you want to achieve with it? Quite disparate issues, looking at cultivating a culture of experimentation and failure, maybe learning from our sort of New World American cousins, our Japanese cousins, and saying, okay, fine, maybe we should have a better understanding, a better toleration of so-called failure as a means of learning here in Europe. That's about it, really.